We're learning the Sikha of the Rebbe from 1991, Tafshin Nun Aleph, in Parshat Akev. And that year, the calendar came out a little bit different, one day different than this year. So it came out that the last Shabbat in the month of Av, that's the month we're presently in. The last Shabbat, which is in the month of Av, it was Shabbat Mavorchin. It was the Shabbat that blessed the month of Elul, and it came out on this week's Torah portion, the Akev. The last Shabbat of every month is always called Shabbat Mavorchin. It's the Shabbat that we make a special blessing for the next month. We bless the incoming month. That's the last Shabbat of every month. So this Shabbat, back then in 1991, that's how the year came out, that this Shabbat, when they read Akev, it was the last Shabbat of the month of this Shabbat. This year, it's not that way. This year, the last Shabbat Mavorchin, is going to be next week, next Shabbat, not this coming one, not Parshas Akev, Parshas Re'eh, next. But nevertheless, the lessons that we learn, okay, and so in that, this mimer is not exactly in sync with the calendar this year. But the lessons here are certainly in sync, very important. And even though we're learning about the month of Elul, so to speak, 1 week early, but the message of what Elul is something that's relevant to the whole year. What is really the message of Elul? Like we were just saying in the mimer that we learned, it's talking about the relationship of the Jews to God and of God to the Jews. It just can't be stressed enough, the importance of the Jewish people. That if the Jewish people do what they're supposed to do, then there's blessing in the whole world. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, then the world is like it is right now. Right? Just total confusion, total lack of values. Everybody thinks what's bad is what's good, and what's good is what's bad. I mean, you can just see just the insanity of it. You know, we just finished like 70 years ago, this whole huge war that killed like, I don't know, 100, 200 million people. I don't know how many people it killed in the war, and then afterwards, the aftermath of the war. So they say, like, you know, that Hitler, that he killed like 50 million people. And today there's people that revere him. They revere him. How could that possibly be? I mean, he just killed so many innocent people for no reason, you know, because so many Russians, so many Polish people, and so many people from, you know, Europe and Belgium and Holland, and this just killed people for no reason. I can't understand how, and that's what it is now. Then there's another thing now, people, communism. Oh, communism is the answer. I mean, like, you know, Mao Zedong, they say he killed 1 million people, 100 million people. I don't know if it's true. I mean, they just don't even care about people over there. They just don't care. And that Stalin killed another 50 million of his own people, he killed with starvation, and the whole system just totally did not work. I mean, people are like running away from communism, and we have all these big intellects in the American universities. That's what they do. And they say this is the answer. This is the only way. We have to be free. We have to, and of course, you know, right in the head of this whole thing, just like in communist Russia, were the Jews. You know, these tremendously confused Jews that they think that they're 100% right, and they have no doubts about what they're doing, and they're willing to kill and to do anything. I mean, thank God now they're not. But in the time of Stalin, for sure, there were Jews that were big, huge murderers. All right. Anyway, so the world is a very confused place. You know, and the whole world, believe it or not, depends on the Jews doing the Torah. The Jews doing the Torah. That's what it all depends on. That's going to be the idea of Moshiach. Just like Moses took the Jews out of Egypt, this Moshiach is going to inspire all the Jews. Well, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the Moshiach. And this is the teachings of the Moshiach. The whole idea of Moshiach is to inspire the Jews to act like Jews. to inspire the Jews to act the way they're supposed to. And Jews don't want to. We saw that when the Jews got the Torah, that 40 days later, they worshiped the golden calf. Right? Same thing we have in Israel. There's all these missionaries going, and they trap a lot of Jews. A lot of Jews get, trapped by this. They get trapped into communism. They get trapped into this weird, Christianity. Just the whole thing is just so bizarre. And they're so excited. And this is, and in the world, America is falling. We're so happy. It's very, very astounding. But we must not pay any attention to the darkness, or at least minimum, and pay only attention to the light. And that's the whole idea of a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness. And this is the little bit of light. So here we go. We have the month of Elul. The month of Elul is explaining how a Jew is really supposed to work, right? Like if you ever learned medicine, there's a thing called a circulatory system. You ever hear of that? Circulatory system. Your blood circulates in your body. And if the blood does not circulate properly in the body, it's very, very uncomfortable, bad, could be fatal. And the Jews are the ones that are supposed to circulate godliness through the whole world. And that's this thing of ani ladodi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. 1 second, let me just see this clear. Yes. Okay, I am to my beloved, the Jewish people. This is, of course, a sentence from the Song of Songs. King Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived. And he's talking about the relationship between God and the Jews. First of all, it starts off, Ani Ladodi, I am my beloved. You have to begin from below. Ani, why am I here? To my beloved, to go up to God. And then afterwards, Ola, Milamata Lamaila, then it goes, we can go from below to above. It starts with the letter Aleph. The Ani starts with the letter Aleph. The month of Elul. Elul is Ani Ladodi Li. So it starts off from below to above. And afterwards, Ani Ladodi, that we begin from the Ani. You start from below, and then afterwards you go higher and higher. Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, right? You go from what's simple to what's more difficult. This is the beginning of everything. Ani Ladodi. We Jews, we have to start. You're found in the most dark place in the world. Right? Yesterday, you were a professor in who knows where in America. You gave a whole lecture about the greatness of communism, the foolishness of believing in God, the necessity of being free and just doing what you want to. And suddenly today you thought, wow, man, I'm a Jew. But what can I do? I'm a professor. I have all these pupils. I'm writing all these books about the greatness of the terribleness of capitalism and the terribleness of religion, and how the only way to the truth is communism. And I have all these people that I've convinced. How am I going to stop this? Says the Rebbe, don't worry. Every journey starts off with one step. You begin with the Aleph. That's Elul. Ani Ladodi. Gam Amshacha, then it'll go from Aleph, then it'll be base. Gimel, little by little. But Gam also, you can draw down from above. Dodi Li, then God reacts. My beloved comes down to me. Kevin, since that both of these movements, which is called Ani Ladodi, I am to my beloved, and Dodi Li, and my beloved comes down to me, is in the same word. They are found in the initials of Elul, Aleph, Lamed, Ani, Ladodi, Vadodi Li. This is the month which we say is the month of reckoning, where we have to reckon with ourselves. Then Mistaber Loma, that we could probably say, it's logical to say, therefore there must be, we have to make a reckoning. When we make a reckoning at the end of the month, what do we make a reckoning for? What are we looking for? What are we looking for? It's something like, we Chabad, we go out, we put tefillin on people on Friday. Fridays, we go out in the streets and whatever, looking, putting on tefillin. Now, what's your goal? What's the goal? The goal is that as many people as possible should put on tefillin, right? It says, well, that's very nice. But the goal is that as many people as possible should be exposed to the fact that putting on tefillin is a Jewish thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a godly thing. It's a positive thing. It's a blessed thing. Any one of these things, just to reveal, that's the real goal. So the same thing is, you have a store. People come in and they buy things and say, what's the goal? The goal is to make money, right? It says, well, it depends. That could be your goal. Second. But maybe your goal is that, you say a good word to everybody that comes in and you help people out, right? Someone comes in and says, I have a problem with a pipe. So you could say, oh, I know that problem. You need a new pump. That costs $5,000. And then to install it is another $1,000. But you know what? I'll put it in there for $900. Instead, you say to him, oh, no, it's no problem. All you have to do is just, turn on the hot water for a couple of minutes. And that's it. You save the guy. If your main thing is to make money, or maybe the main thing is to be truthful, to really help people. What's the real goal? What's the real goal over here? So it says, same thing. When in the month of Elul, you're making an accounting of how you're serving God, according to what criterion are you making the accounting? What's called success? What's called failure? What's called an improper investment? Right? You make an accounting on the end of the year, and you discover you've sold so much, and you're not making any money. Maybe the help is stealing. Maybe maybe your accountant is stealing something. Maybe you're losing money on upkeep. Maybe you have to feel according to what are your standards. So it says the month of Elul, we're making an accounting of how we're serving God. What are the standards? The standards are how much we're giving ourselves is ani ladodi vadodi li. That's the standards. That's the goal. Ani ladodi. Serving God from below to above. In other words, what I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, is God part of the picture at all? Am I at all thinking about what the Creator wants from me? Was this according to the Torah? Whether we're talking about what I do or what God reveals, serving God from above to below. Even though that in general, ani ladodi, this is the service of man, and dodi li, that I go to God, this is what God gives us from above. So how can we make a reckoning of what God does? It says, hey, Yoshekodesh Baruch Hu, because God wants that everything should come down by means of avodat me'ayin zeh lamata. So because God wants us to serve him, and according to how we serve him, that's how he blesses. Yesh lo, we can say that by means of this, that the service of a Jew, yesh lo me'ayin l'dodi li, since the way we serve God should be something like the way we want God to bless us, serving God from above to below. In other words, we're keeping in mind what type of a blessing would we like from God. Right? The more that you learn Chassidut, you'll understand what you really need, what the world really needs. That's one of the meanings of the word prayer. Palel also means a judge. Right? You pray to God. I remember there was once I heard a song, a country and western song. Thank God for unanswered prayers. Right? The person singing the song is saying that when he was in high school, he saw this girl or something. He really prayed that God should give him this girl, and he didn't answer his prayers. And then like 30 years later, he saw this girl and he said, wow, thank God for unanswered prayers. Okay, so it's a sort of a low level thing. But nevertheless, the fact is sometimes what we want is not what's good for us. Sometimes what we're desiring, it can be the worst thing for us. Right? Something that God doesn't answer our prayers could be the biggest blessing of all. So it says, therefore, we have to think, what do we really want God to bless us with? According to that, how we want God to act, we should act that way in order to inspire it. You want God to overlook all of my faults, so we have to also overlook the faults of others. You want God to give me without any limit, so I have to give to others also without any limit. This is the vessel drawn down ani ledodi, but dodi li, an arousal from above, the call am shachos me'akodesh baruch hu lamata. Therefore, you want God to bless, we have to act in a way that's like the blessing, or like in the language of Chassidut, it says make a vessel that's fitting for the blessing. Yesh Lomar, we can say shnei inyanim elu, that these two things in the month of Elul, ani ledodi v'dodi li, this is hinted at in the first 2 days of Rosh Chodesh Elul. And Rosh Chodesh Elul is always 2 days. The month of Elul, 2 days. Kevan shechodesh menachem av is always full, 30 days. So, U'b'lashon hakasuv, like it says, B'roshei chodshechem, the beginnings of your month, like it says in the Zohar, Ki kama rishon in lisara. How many beginnings can there be to the moon, to the month? The Jewish people, it used to be that the months were determined when you saw the first sliver of the moon. It was a whole long process, but nevertheless, how many beginnings, how many slivers can there be? Elo Roshe train, there's 2. Right? Every single month and every single month, that there's 2 days of the month. That's how it was also back in the time of the Holy Temple. Rosh Chodesh could only be one of 2 days. They just didn't know which of the days it was. But Kol year, okay, B'frat, and especially B'had Gasha, when this year is Rosh Chodesh, is Shabbos and Yom Rishon. This year it's not this way. This year Rosh Chodesh is what? Yom Rishon and Yom Sheni, right? So it works. Let me just have a look over here. Yes. Yes, Yom Rishon and Yom Sheni. All right, Yom Rishon and Yom Sheni. Okay, in this case, it was Shabbat and Yom Rishon. The first, the Yom Rishon and Yom Shabbat, this hints at 2 different ways of time. Yom Rishon, this, like I say, this is not going to be relevant this year to Rosh Chodesh Elul, but it's relevant every single Shabbat, every single month, every single week. Yom Rishon, the first day of them is Sunday. This is the beginning of counting of the days of the week, from below to above. Shabbat, this is counting from above to below. Shabbat is a gift. So that's how it is every single week. Shabbat is a gift from God. And then after that, we start counting from below to above. Because the beginning of creation was on the first day of creation, Yom Rishon, and that was the first day of the creation of the world. And the first Shabbat, the Shabbat Rishon, that was the first week in the creation of the world. The Yom Rishon, the Maisa Bereshis, on the first day of the creation, began the creation and then started counting the days of the week from below to above. Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, Yom Shlishi, Shishi, etc. That's how it is every week. So it is also every single Sunday. We start counting the days anew, brand new. Miyom Rishon, etc. And it continues in this order from below to above. Miyom Rishon to Yom Shabbos. But no, in addition to this, there's another way of counting from above to below. Even though we find that time was created, namely time was created at the first moment that God created the world, Maisa Bereshis. Like it says in the Sforim, Shekodem Abriya, that before the creation of the world, before the 6 days of creation, that there was Shabbat. Shabbat existed before the world existed. Like it says, Shagam Kodem Abriya, before God created time, the reason the time is the way it is because it goes to according to a spiritual pattern. Right? God could have created the world in one instant, but he created it in 7 days because that goes according to a spiritual pattern, that according to this pattern, the world was created and time was created. So he says, before the world was created, there was what's called Seder Zmanim. There was what's called the order of time, the idea of time. This was called Shabbat. This level of Shabbat, which was before time, this Shabbat blesses all of the 6 days that come afterward. So really, when man was created on the first day, so to speak, it came after Shabbat, but this is the Shabbat of the upper worlds, of God. And all the time, this is an order of time from above to below. Shabbat was the first day, namely completion of time, and it was drawn down gradually in the 6 days of the creation. It's something like a person builds a house, right? He builds a house. The first thing he has in his mind is the finished house, right? He calls an architect or whatever, and he says, I would like a house like this. He shows him a picture. That's the whole picture. And then he starts to build. The same thing is, what's the end point? The end point is the house that he saw in the beginning. The same thing with Shabbat. Shabbat was before the world. Shabbat existed before the world. It was the plan of the world. And then God created, that's what it says, Sof Maseh b'machshava techila. That God's, the end of the week, which is Shabbat, it was really in God's thought first. Therefore, from Shabbat comes all the blessings for the whole rest of the week. Just like it is in time, also it is the difference between Shabbat and the rest of the days regarding our service of God. Yom Rishon, the first day of the week, this indicates serving God from below to above, serving God in the weekdays. Minakala lakavod, and from milamata lamayla. Starting off small, right? A person thinks, right? Is there really God? Maybe there is, maybe not. Oh, that's good. You've at least brought it into your mind, the possibility. If so, what is God? Wow, God really creates the world. He creates me. God wants me to do things for him. He wants me to do things in order to connect to him, right? Is this really true? That's called from below to above. He starts off ground level. That's what's called the first day. Avoda kala biyoter, the simplest service. Afterwards, olim lavoda kashe yoter, biyom sheni, right? And puts on tefillin once a year. Then he puts on tefillin once a month. Then he puts on tefillin once a week. Then he does it twice a week. Then he starts putting them every day. Then he buys a better pair of tefillin. Then maybe he prays a little bit more. Starts from little by little. Shabon nivram machlokas. On the second day, that was when it was created the contention, oppositions. Then afterwards comes the day after that, right? So same thing with Judaism. You start off with Judaism, and afterwards that's number one. Oh, I'm alone. Then all of a sudden comes your friends. This is what you want. This cannot be. This, right? They come and they dissuade you. I know a lot of people like that. That when they were outside of Israel, they left Israel, and they were wandering around the world. They realized how empty the world is. They started doing Torah and commandments and Chabadis. As soon as they came back to Israel with their friends, they left the whole thing. Okay, you want to put on tefillin, good, but we're going to the beach. We're going to this here. Want to keep Shabbat? Want to keep kosher? Okay, but we're having, right? And little by little it erodes. That's what it says. That's the first day. Everything is good. You're making a good start. The second day, all of a sudden, there's opposition. Then comes the third day. Then there's a resolution. The harmony. Until finally comes to the sixth day. That's the day when man was really created. Until it comes the completion of service. Then you become a true man. Then God does his part again. Shabbat. Which is not the case. The service of Shabbat the service of Shabbat is from above to below. That's why it says that every day should be a little bit of Shabbat. First of all, you begin with complete pleasure in God. This is what's called like tzaddikim are like this. That his whole thing is just serving God in a way of pleasure. Just like on Shabbat, you do physical things, but it can be they can be for God. Eating fat meat, drinking wine. This is from below to above, the days of the week afterwards. That's the whole idea of serving God in these two ways. Ani ledodi, v'dodi li. Also, we can say that this is what these two ways of serving God also are in the service of man, since that God created the world for the Jews. What do you mean for the Jews? For the Jews to move the world. It's something like I remember there was someone that came. If the main headquarters of Chabad is in New York in building 770. In 770, there's a huge synagogue which is really built from the basement of this building of 770, a big basement. And usually you go down there, it's not that beautiful down there. The fact of the matter is, it's not that splendid, down there. And there's a lot of people. It's always active. There's always people there. And they make farbrengens and people. Anyway, so once they brought a donor, Rabbi Chodakov, he brought a donor. And, to give to Chabad. Chabad is, active in the whole world. It's this wonderful organization. And of course, they need the money. But what could be a better organization to support than Chabad? No matter how much you give, it'll never be enough. The Chabad's always expanding. He said, here's the center. He took him down to 770, and the guys, he saw darkness in front of his eyes. This is the center? You figure you see some beautiful synagogue where everybody's quiet, and it's just, this huge Aron HaKodesh, with gold, and everything is just clean. You go down there and things are like, no matter how much you clean it up, in 10 minutes, the whole place becomes dirty again because there's so many people there, and there's all sorts of different times. So he said, well, look at this place. It's total disarray. Even the tables, look at some of them are chipped, they're old, everything. So he said to him, Rabbi Chodakov was a very, very smart person. So he said, have you ever gone on a cruise ship? He says, what's the main room in a ship, in the cruise ship? You have all these beautiful rooms, the ballroom and this room, that room. The main room is where? The engine room. That's the main room. That's the engine. Without the engine, the whole thing is not worth it. If the kitchen closes down, okay, they'll find a way to make, to prepare food raw. If the dining room, the ballroom, so they won't have dancing. But if the engine room doesn't work, then this room is the engine room for the whole entire world. This is the engine room for the whole entire world. That's what Chabad is. So it has to be dynamic. So it starts off from below to above. Says that's when serving God, it also has to be dynamic, like everything in the world. And there has to be from below to above, ani ledodi and dodi li. And this is what we're going to continue, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's just go to 1 minute. Why is this not? Why is it not working? Okay. Why can't I get to this here? All right, let's try it like this. Hidden. No, didn't work. I can't see what I'm printing over here. Well, let's try it again. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, I see what I did wrong. Hayom Yom. The Rebbe that Tzemach Tzedek explained the relationship of fire and the inner Torah. Remember, we said that yesterday, that the inner Torah is fire. Hasidim have to go and tell people, don't be afraid of the fire. The inner Torah, namely the ideas of Hasidut, like we're learning just in the Maimon the Kuti Torah, this levels of Ban and Man and Sag and the essence of God and lower waters, upper waters. And this gives the inner Torah gives life to the revealed Torah. Just like your soul, everybody has a soul. Nobody sees what it is. So the inner Torah, that's like the soul of the Torah, that gives vitality to the revealed Torah, to the Talmud and the halachas. When a person learns a law and knows that after 120 years, he'll learn the same law in heaven, right after he dies, that he's going to learn the same. In other words, the laws are eternal. That puts a little bit of fire into him. A little bit of fire, enthusiasm. Okay, have a good day with Moshiach. Now, God willing, at 3:00, we will learn Chumash. We'll continue in Parshas Akev. Have a good day.